Hey everybody, it's Norris with the Norris Group. It is Friday, November 9th, and did you hear about all the bills that passed this week? That and much more as we cover the biggest headlines in real estate. All right, up on the radio show and podcast this week, we have got part 6 of I Survived Real Estate 2018. If you want to watch the entire thing uninterrupted, it is now on Amazon Prime. If you're a Prime member, just look up the Norris Group. And while you're there, don't forget to rate us if you like the show. We could really use your ratings as we launch into Amazon. Or you can always go to YouTube and look up the show. You can watch the entire show uninterrupted. On the podcast this week, we cover what could be the penalty for not being the first in the world of technology as we compete with countries like China on things like 5G. What are some of the major concerns right now in the real estate market? How big is the priority to own a home right now for the United States and the average buyer? Could there be tailwinds into housing and possibly a crash? And this is the entire panel addresses some of the juiciest topics, so you won't want to miss it. The Mortgage Bankers Association reported an increase in mortgage credit availability in October, up by 2.5%. Home price increased 5.6% year over year in September, according to CoreLogic. The Feds did not raise interest rates on Thursday. Some were expecting that, but will they in December? We'll have to wait and see. Mortgage applications decreased 4% to their lowest in 4 years. Mortgage rates are at their highest in 7 years, with 30-year rates now at 4.94% and 15-year rates at 4.33. Forget picking a city. Amazon has decided to possibly select 2 cities for their headquarters 2. So I guess it's technically headquarters 2 and 3, where they'll hire around 25,000 employees for each location. Rumors of the finalists include Long Island City and Queens, New York, Dallas, Texas, and Crystal City, Virginia, which is close to Washington, D.C. Bezos himself said last week that he'd make the final decision guided by intuition. You immerse yourself in that data, but then you make the decision with your heart. I bet it has something a little bit more to do with all the incentives the cities are going to give you to relocate there, but we'll see. Zillow dropped from $40 a share to $30 a share this week after they missed analysts' expectation on earnings. 2/3 of Zillow revenue comes from their Premier Agent program, and that was down as Zillow says they're focusing on quality leads, not necessarily the quantity of leads. So their iBuyer program called Homes accounted for $11 million in revenue. The company purchased 168 homes and sold 36 in the third quarter of this year. They received 20,000 instant offers, and they say 45% of those who ask for the offer end up listing their home for sale. So if you're a Premier Agent, that's a pretty warm lead. Inman reported on a change with Open Door, another iBuyer in the space, buying out homes directly from buyers and then listing it, well, up until recently, without the help of a realtor, sort of upsetting everybody in the realtor space. Seems like they're trying to push us out. But as I said from the beginning, everything's fine and dandy when the market is going really well, but what happens when it flattens out and maybe things just soften up a little bit? This is uncharted territory for them, so they really don't know. Well, maybe we now found out. They decided to cuddle up to realtors a little bit. The change that they made is now they're going to be co-listing with realtors on the way out, and agents will be part of the process, including the showings and getting some of the referral revenue. Chicago Tribune weighed in on renovating historic homes this week and gave us a list of 7 mistakes to avoid. Too many people are watching HGTV and think everything that we investors do is just a piece of cake. Well, I need you all thinking about getting in the business who aren't. Watch The Haunting of Hill House on Amazon. Talk about a historic rehab gone wrong. Besides The Haunting, you've got things like mold and rooms you can't open. Absolute nightmare of epic proportions. You'll have to check it out. But I digress. Back to the story. The 7 mistakes they say to avoid includes not researching the historic history of a place, which I think is really important because a lot of homes now, when you're looking at redoing the design, sometimes when you clue into the locality and make sure it stays true to its form, especially when it's historic, you can't be putting specific features in a home. It doesn't make sense. It makes it feel too modern, and nobody wants that. Don't DIY unless you have some experience. That just goes across the board, not just historic homes. When you can't do plumbing and you think you're going to watch a YouTube video and plug in, yeah, just don't do that. That's a nightmare waiting to happen. Adding pristine new elements that don't fit the motif. Installing vinyl windows. I don't like this one. When you're dealing with historic homes, and I know a lot of people don't have a choice, especially when you have some kind of committee or historic district that you have to deal with, they want you to install those LED windows, the historic windows. So if you're looking for energy efficiency, it's out the door. Always drives me crazy. I think it's hard to have a green conversation and one of the historic home at the same time. Anyway, technology should be hidden or subtle. If you remove walls, remember it's a remodel, not a tear down. And finally, adding square footage. You got to keep it tasteful and matching. It's a pretty good list of 7, so California, many say, is the future. It's a center for creative industries and new technology. It's a diverse state pushing progressive policies that could be models for the rest of the country, if not the world. Gavin Newsom says the future belongs to California during his victory speech this week. But if California is the future, why are so many leaving? In 2017, it was around 130,000. The actual migration patterns in California aren't quite as bad as it sounds, at least not yet. But a report released earlier this year by the California Legislative Analyst's Office looking at domestic migration patterns shows that there might be a reason to worry. Between 2007 and 2016, California has lost more than 1 million in net migration, all due large in part to the state's housing crisis. California is becoming wealthier and more economically stratified, and as more citizens find it difficult to make ends meet, they might have to exit. But layer on top of that, Trump tax law changes aren't benefiting the wealthy in California. I personally know of a lot of people who have exited the state, taking their CalPERS retirement along with them. Maybe not a good trend, and we really aren't going to know until this first tax cycle. So be prepared to see these numbers updated in 2018 as we find out really what the situation is, especially after the tax change. Even the high-end market is chiming in to tell us what they think of the real estate market. This week, Mansion Global says that the change in luxury real estate is often a sign of things to come. But what does that mean here for California? In a quote, they say, "At the luxury end, buyers are a little more insulated," says Skylar Olson, Director of Economic Research and Outreach for Zillow. The idea there is that they're not exactly cash-strapped and are making financial decisions for the benefit of their lifestyle. I love that word, lifestyle. Luxury real estate doesn't react the same as sectors further down the market to changes like rising mortgage interest rates, but that doesn't mean that's entirely immune from external forces. Yet many in the luxe market say that fluctuations in luxury real estate serve as a sign of what's to come further down the market. So I don't love this story because California is always a little bit unique. All you need to do is definitely check out if you're in San Diego, Orange County, LA, anywhere along the coast. Check out the brackets of price. Anything in the first-time buyer market, I know some of them doesn't look like it's a first-time price, but if you look for, like, say for instance, Orange County, anything under maybe 600 grand, the month's supply of inventory in that category versus things that are over 1.5 million. If you're not watching those numbers, it's a totally different story. If you're thinking about doing a major rehab in that multi-million-dollar space, you better know how much holding time you better be prepared for, especially if you're doing private money with high interest rates. It can be painful. Don't make that mistake. The news of a home price boom cooling in Southern California has left many wondering if a crash is imminent. The California housing market has been on a nearly 7-year tear, with prices in many communities reaching all-time highs. And partly it's because interest rates are much lower than the bust, so while we've gone above the prices the last time, remember, it's combined with an interest rate that's about half that amount. But now as mortgage rates are starting to rise, sales are dropping, inventory is swelling, according to some, and more sellers are scaling back their ambitious asking price. Well, some. So some predict annual price increases will slow. I think many people think that. Others think values could dip a little bit, but there is a general agreement that a meltdown is not coming. So if you watched I Survive Real Estate, everybody who covers the economy is sort of in agreement there. And Christopher Thornburg with Beacon Economics says it's a bump in the road, and that's from an article that John Burns, Christopher Thornburg, and our very own Bruce Norris was featured in last Sunday in the LA Times. So take it with a grain of salt, but so far everyone's just going to say it's going to be or maybe a little bump in the road. Is anyone else glad that the election is over? I am. I get my Facebook back, right? Well, we can all rejoice the ill-planned rental control bill failed. Prop 10 would have pushed down rent control rules back down to the city level, meaning every city could do whatever they wanted with rent control, and all you have to do is look at accessory dwelling units and vacation rentals to know that that is just a terrible idea. What a mess. So that passed with a 61% vote against that, so that is great. Real estate landlords across California are rejoicing, so that's great. But don't think that it's not going to come back, because we have an affordable housing problem. Unless we don't fix it, we might as well assume that's going to be on the ballot every single election cycle moving forward. Proposition 5 surprisingly failed to pass, and at a pretty good clip. I think it was around 58% said no to that, and that's where seniors, and not just seniors, but people who were dealing with natural disasters that had to move, they could have moved their basis and their property to any county within California, making it more flexible. And I'm really surprised it didn't pass, because that would have allowed maybe some seniors to downsize and stay in California, but apparently enough people didn't. So sorry about it, seniors. You're just going to have to age in place like we've been talking about for the last year. But I'm curious to know what you're relieved about and what do you think's coming next? Is it going to be regulation in a couple years with affordable housing? Is it going to be rent control? What do you think is next? If you're on YouTube, please leave a comment below and don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss a beat. If you're on Facebook, please don't forget to not only like the Norris Group page, but don't forget to add us to your See First list and with notifications on. Leave your comments below the video. And if we missed something, share the story on our comment sections on either YouTube or Facebook, and we'll make sure to include it on our blog at thenorrisgroup.com/blog. All right, upcoming events. November 10th, I'm going to be on a panel at the Intelligence Investors Real Estate Conference put on Phoebe, the For Investors by Investor brand. It's their first major event. We'd love to have you come out. 2 full days of education. If you're going to be around for this weekend, we'd love to see you there. Find out more information on that on our website. You're also going to see a link we just have up. We're still working on the artwork. Mark your calendars for January 26th. We are going to be doing a market timing update. Bruce and I are working really hard on hundreds of charts per usual. The report is called California Real Estate on Borrowed Time. January 26th at the Riverside Convention Center in Riverside, California. We hope to see you there. For more information on events and hard money loans, including fix and flip, buy and hold, and new construction all over the state of California and Florida, check out thenorrisgroup.com under hard money. Or if you want more information on passive investing with trust deeds and mortgages, just hit that invest button on thenorrisgroup.com and you'll find out more information there. With that, have a fantastic weekend and we'll see you next week.